Yeah, like for all I know, you probably have just fine feet, but the user experience is like, you know, I mean, it look like feet to me. They look I don't know. Maybe Discord adds magic to it. I don't know.
Hop out the four door with the 440 was 1, 2, 3, and 4. Chilling in the corridor. Your dad is 44, and he still call a man for a draw. Let him know. When I see him, I'm gonna spin his jaw. Take man tricks by force. Send man shot by force. Your girl knows I've got the sauce. No ketchup, just sauce. Raw sauce. Boom, yo. The thing goes up. Skitty pop pop pop. And the poop 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 boom. Skia. Poop 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 boom boom. Boom boom. I said man's not hot. I said a man's not hot. The girl told me take off your jacket. I said babes, man's not hot. I said man's not hot. I said a man's not hot. The girl told me take off your jacket. I said babes, man's not hot. Yo, man can never be hot.
Podcasts and stuff. We started. Boom. Who am I here with?
You are here with Echo Giesel Widmer.
The full name. Bars. Not used to hearing the full name.
So what?
That's crazy. I said I'm not used to hearing the full name.
Yeah, Echo underscore around the world.
Already with the plugs. Let's go. All right. Why? So yeah, we say that right there. So like, where does the name Echo even come from?
Everybody asks me that question. It's really funny because I feel
like every question I'm gonna ask you today, you're gonna just.
I mean, people do ask me a lot of questions, but it's kind of funny because most people just assume that it's like this hippie name that I just come up with and I've rebranded myself. But in actuality, my mother came up with the name. There was this big debate between her and my grandmother. My grandmother hated the name Echo. She thought it was this like hippy dippy name, and she was like, "Look, I'm going to be taking care of her because that's a part of my childhood. My grandmother actually raised me." So she made my mother basically have me, and she was like, "I'm naming her because you're not giving her some weird hippie name." So she gave me another name, but I'm not going to tell you because I really don't like it. And
come on, man. No one's going to hear
and
this.
My mother gave me Echo, and my middle name was Giesel. So my whole life growing up, I thought my middle name was cool. I liked Giesel, but I hated the other name that my grandmother gave me. And I hated the name Echo because I thought Echo was really weird. So I went by Giesel growing up. And then when my mother died, I decided to go by Echo because I thought I would honor her and go by her weird name. And now I love it. I love the name. But growing up, I hated it because everybody would be like, Echo.
That's funny.
So I'm embracing the weirdness.
Yeah, man. I feel like it's a badass name. And then like I meet you during the Echo era. So I remember I think the first time I do yoga and people were calling you, and I think I even said Giesel first because I was like looking for it and making sure I was in the right spot. So I was like, is this like Giselle's class? Because I just didn't want to feel weird. I didn't want to feel weird like just Echo's class because I didn't know if that's what like. Is that what we call her? I don't know. But then I was like, oh, okay, yeah. And I was like, all right, I'm never going to use her real name again.
Yeah.
It's going to be like Batman or something, you know? Like, I'm going to just use Echo all the time.
Yeah, I still have friends that refuse to call me Echo. They call me Giesel. Most friends call me Echo, but now the friends that like to call me Giesel either call me G or E.
So that's your hood name.
I've got all kinds of names. I got G-E, Jizzle, Jazzle, Rizzle, Razzle, Echo.
Oh, man. Damn, so you got like different names for different area codes.
Yeah, just different eras of life, man.
Okay. Who is Echo?
Man, that's a tough fucking question.
Damn, like question 2, we broke it already.
I'm still, that's the, is God real? I'm still figuring that out.
That's question 3, so hold it.
Yeah. I think I'm still figuring that out. I think that's part of life, right? You know, you constantly adapt to new circumstances and new perspectives. But I think that Echo has evolved from a very broken childish soul from my early life into a woman that's kind of just stepping into her power and trying to inspire other women to do the same thing as well as men. I want everybody to step up, but I
Mm.
really, really want to focus on women because I feel like I meet so many strong women in my life that are doing beautiful things that are constantly undermining and belittling themselves, not giving themselves the credit. So I'm trying to embrace that and realize it in myself because I'm really good at noticing everybody else's beauty and noticing everybody else's power, but I'm really
Yeah.
quick to put myself down. So I'm trying to step up to the platform a little bit more.
I feel like that's like the user experience for probably 90% of us, right? Um, everybody's so good. How come I'm not? No matter what we do, right?
Constantly, yeah.
How do we go about reframing that?
I honestly, as a man, it's hard for me to say what a man should do. But for a woman, I think it's really difficult in this time because we're showed from very early in life that that our power comes from our physical appearance. And I mean, we're told that all the time now. Like everybody's saying, "Oh, embrace your power." Don't let the media do this to you and do that to you. But in all honesty, like I've noticed that I even tend to have an eye that is appealing. Is I feel certain people are appealing to me on TV, in magazines, and whatnot. And if you see a woman that's not the perfect Barbie shape or the perfect skin color, that has blemishes or imperfections, for some reason your eye wanders to these other ads. These other things. Your perception of beauty has been so chemically like become part of you. And I really do. I'm trying my best, and I think we all can try our best to really like break down these things that we think are normal and ask ourselves why. Because when I look around, 10% of people look like what we see in ads and what we see on TV. The other 90% of people aren't represented, and I think that's really weird. And from traveling so much and being in so many different worlds, basically throughout Earth, all these different cultures. I've just noticed that I don't see real people in magazines. I don't still see real people on media. And I really want to help push the envelope there and tell people like what you're seeing here, this 10%, these ads that you're seeing, that's not real life. That's this imaginary thing that we're all trying to be. And I don't want to be that person. And I want other people to not try to be that person. I think that physicality is such a small percentage of what it means to be human. We have so many other things to offer, and we're so stuck on this idea of image.
Yeah, no. I mean, you were saying like what women have that, the appearance thing first. Like, I mean, even I alluded to it before we even started, that whether you wanted to or not, like it could help you, like when you start doing some of the things you were talking about that you wanted to do.
Yeah.
'Cause yeah, I mean, for better or worse, like I'll notice it too, like, oh, a girl's doing this, but had it not been a girl, like I might not have paid attention to it.
Yeah.
So,
And it's shitty when you see that because you notice that even though you try to be of a higher consciousness and you're like, oh, I'm educated, I'm intellectual, I can see the beauty in reality, I can see the beauty in realness. And then your eyes wander off to the beautiful woman walking down the street or the beautiful man walking down the street or the magazine cover or the movie. And you're like, shit, like it's ingrained in you. And it's not something, especially as an American woman, like, I mean, it's something that's so far ingrained in me to want the picture perfect everything. You want to have the good hair, you want to have the good body, you want to have a nice home, and all of these things that we allude to growing up. You can't help but in the back of your mind still kind of praise those things. And it's really sad because it's not real. It's such a small percentage of what actually is around you. And it's really hard to break. You've got to really do some soul searching and really dig deep to change those kind of neurotransmitters that are just like popping off in your mind each time you see those things.
I think one of the things that like attracted me to even like wanting to know you, take a yoga class with me, like all this stuff is like, I think the first time I found you uh was on Facebook. And it's just like I feel like I'm not even gonna ask the question because now I'm just telling this story. But one of the first times I found you was on Facebook, and it was because you were like mutual friends with Anna Love, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and she was a music person through Red Bull Music Academy, which I ended up doing stuff, but that's all another story. But anyway, um, so yeah, I clicked on you because I would click on people, random people back in the day, and you were like snowboarding, and I was like, how is this possible in Austin? And it's not, unless there's some indoor thing I don't know about. But I mean, I didn't know you were traveling because I didn't even know you back then. But anyway, I go through the pictures and I add you, and like you're like living this whole other life that at the time I was like, like I didn't imagine like any of this was possible, or like for me to know people like that, who are doing like cooler things. And then I feel like I can probably go on and on, but pretty much I'm trying to ask like, so where do you go from like living, you know, the normal life, quote unquote, to like, hey man, I'm travel the world. And I guess I didn't even want to ask this too, but were you even doing extreme stuff before you even traveling the world, or?
So I think I've been doing, it's kind of funny when people say extreme stuff because for me, it's like, it's not
That's what it's
extreme, it's pretty
called.
chill.
I mean, yeah, I don't know, man. Like
No, but
BMX
people,
bikes and all that, skateboarding, they're all extreme for whatever reason, you know?
yeah, people say that all the time, and it's really funny. I mean, the first thing that comes up when anybody brings up extreme with me is the fact that I'm a licensed skydiver, and
Yeah.
and for me, yeah, I get it. I get it. There are moments when I'm skydiving that I'm like, oh, what I'm doing is kind of crazy. Like I should be afraid, but I'm not. But for me, it's like this meditative space. Like you see all these Red Bull videos and stuff of people skydiving and wingsuiting, and they've got like this bass music that's like bom 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 bom, and everybody's getting all amped up and it's exciting. And for me, when I do edits of skydiving, I'm playing like classical piano and string music because I'm just like, ah! So it's really funny because I feel like as a child, I was always climbing up stuff, and I was and jumping off of things and shooting guns. I grew up in a small country town of Cut and Shoot, Texas, which I can't even believe is a real town.
When you posted that, I Googled that and I was like, oh my gosh, like that's real. Like I started just telling friends, like, can you believe we got a place called
It's legitimately a place. I'm not going to say it's like the best place, but it is legitimately a place. But I feel like I've always had a very adventurous soul. Like growing up, I would always just walk and walk and walk through the woods until I got lost. I remember miles and miles away from my house, into the woods was an airport. And it was a very small airport, obviously, because it's in Conroe, Texas. But I would sneak to the very back of the airport and I would sit in the lawn where all the planes would take off. And I would sit there and I would watch all the planes take off and I would guess where they were going and I would make up these stories in my mind of where they were traveling to. Because at the time I was a very poor girl living on like a chicken farm, basically. And life as a kid definitely was not easy. It was very, very tough. And didn't really have any money and I didn't have food most of the time. And things just weren't good. So for me, it was an escape to go sit there and imagine what all these other people were doing and how glorious their lives were. So I think it all spun from that. From that moment, I always vowed I'm going to do everything I can in school to be the best student, to be the best athlete, to be the best anything that I try, so that whenever I can escape this small town, I never have to come back to it and I can go out and be in the world. And I tried so hard. I was straight A student. I was valedictorian of my high school. And I got like 10 different scholarships to university that ended up paying for 4 years of my undergraduate. And when I left, I never went back to Cut and Shoot again. I think I've visited maybe twice over the past 15 years just to take a photo with a sign to show people that it's a real city and that I am from there. But I think I was so fearful of getting stuck there and of not being able to escape that I just hit the ground running. When I finally got out, I was like, I've got so much to see and do. I've got to go out and see the entire world because I've been stuffed up in this small town. So I haven't really stopped since then.
All right. but when do you so yeah, so that tells the little adventure side, but I feel like I've read like um I don't know if it was on Facebook or on the My Creative Drug, but I feel like I read like this story where like you tell I guess when you make the decision from again like whatever job or whatever normal life like stationary life to doing that, like how does that happen, the transition?
Um, so I very much had the life that a lot of people work towards as young adults. I finished grad or undergraduate school. I got my master's degree, and from my master's degree, I mean, I
What
started
was
to.
the master's in again?
My master's was in public administration and political science. So I wanted
Wow.
to do casework for child protective services, or I wanted to do some sort of law.
Mm.
Um, I used to work in an internship at the United Nations for the World Food Program in the Dominican Republic. So that
Wow.
was one of my first jobs that I had in graduate school. And so when I was going through graduate school, I was quite serious. I had at the time I was the marketing director for a property management group, and I climbed my way up the ladder there. And I worked so many hours a week. I was super focused on my job and making lots of money for that company. And I wanted to. I bought furniture. I had a house. I had a car. Like I wanted all the things. I was constantly collecting things because I think that growing up poor and not having anything, I felt really cool and I felt really adult to own things and fill my house up and make it feel like this sanctuary. And so I went on to work at a law firm after I finished graduate school, and I was immediately unhappy. It was kind of funny because I spent 6 years of my life really studying and being so focused on becoming this, powerful young female adult. And then as soon as I got what I wanted, I immediately was dissatisfied. And the partners at the law firm told they could completely see that, and they were so kind because they were also Aggies, which I don't know if you know anything about Texas A&M, but it is like the most cult like school. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Aggies out there, but we are so close knit. And that if there's any other Aggies in any other country and you're traveling, they're there to support you and they want to help you and they want to give you a job and take care of you. And so these two partners, I was like their star kid. I got this job at the firm and they were so happy to have a Aggie female there. And then it didn't work out. I wasn't happy there. And so they sat me down in the office and they were like, we really love you, but we think you're going to have your own TV show one day. And I was like, what do you mean? Because at the time I was very serious. I had my blazer on and my pants and my high heels, and I was
I'm
very
trying to
serious.
imagine this. I can't though. I
Yeah,
can't.
and exactly. And so they were like, and I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, you're not built to be in an office. You need to go out and be in the world. You're gonna have your own TV show one day. And I was like, all right. And they're like, but you know what? We want to give you a severance package to like help you find your next career goal, and we hope the best for you. And so I left. I left work that day, and this was the beginning of everything. It was quite funny because I had two friends from Australia visiting me, and I had met them in Canada 6 months prior because I was still traveling quite a bit between working and school. And they had been trying to get me to go to South America with them. And I was like, I can't. I've got this serious job. I'm really focused. And I went home and I was like, guys, I got fired from my job. I got let go. And they were like, oh, we're so sorry. We're so sorry for you. Oh, what can we do? What can we do? And I was like, oh, well, they did give me a severance package. And they're like, what? You're going to go with us to South America. We're going to Central America. It's going to be great. And so I told them, I was like, and by the way, my Aussie accent is shit. That was British. They are Australian. I just can't do the accent. But they were like, you're going with us. So the next day, like literally the next day after I got let go, we bought tickets on a cheap bus to Mexico. And I said, I'll go with you guys until I run out of money. And I thought it would be like 2 weeks or something. And 3 months later, we had traveled all through Central America. And I used a credit card to fly back from Costa Rica. And from that moment on, I started my own photography and film studio, which was already a passion. It's something that I love to do, but I had never really made money doing. And then I completely embraced the artistic lifestyle that I had always kind of treated as a hobby. And I never went back to a real job. And I, from that moment on, started doing seasonal work around the world, traveling as much as I could, and getting into yoga. And I just never looked back.
I think the first thing that came to mind with the seasonal. thing was like the snowboarding jobs you do in Japan. That yeah, it just looks cool when I see the pictures and stuff you post from there.
Yeah.
Um, so then how do you get into yoga then? Now, well, you weren't doing that when you were here? And before you answer that, real quick,
Yeah.
the TV show, yeah, that's right. I wanted to ask that. Did they say what kind of TV show you would have?
They just thought I was going to have like an adventure TV show, because even when I had a job, I was every weekend I'd go rock climbing, or I'd go like cave. I was a caver, so I did
Okay.
spelunking. So
Yeah,
I do
yeah.
that kind of stuff. So they're like, you're going to do an adventure show.
Okay. And now that I gave you that link, maybe you will. Like, oh, it's full circle.
Yeah.
You could
Yeah,
totally
maybe. I
do it
got to get
now.
into this live streaming thing. You know, I'm kind of technologically inept for a creative, which is
Mm,
not very cohesive, but I'm
yeah.
learning. I'm learning.
Yeah, man. You never know, man. I mean, I could always at least point you in the right directions, and then
Yeah,
the
definitely.
rest is up to you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yoga. Or no,
yoga.
sorry.
So
No, say what
yoga
you were gonna say.
yoga again was like, I feel like a lot of parts of my life that have become big parts of it have happened very organically. Like getting let go from that job was one of the best things that could have ever happened to me, because in all honesty, I would have probably stayed there for quite some time, because in my mind I was like, I worked 6 years to get towards this, and this is a really prominent job and so many people want it, like I have to make it work. So I'm so happy that that did happen, because it organically let me be free and let me explore. But with yoga, same thing. When I was back in Austin, I was working for Black Swan Yoga, which everyone knows Black Swan Yoga. It's like the biggest yoga studio in all of Austin. And they were like, you know, the cream of the crop. And I feel like they still are. They're like the cool kids. And Michael Gray, the owner at the time, he doesn't own it anymore, but he was a friend of mine. And he asked me to come and do video and photography for him. And at the time, I was just doing any gig I could do with photo and video, and I was doing it quite cheaply everywhere, just because I wanted to get my name out there. And so I helped Michael out. I started doing all of his billboards. I started doing yoga videos for, you know, online marketing and stuff. And that was me. Like, I was the Black Swan girl. Like, everybody knew that I was the one that created the marketing for them. And I didn't even necessarily love yoga at the time. Like, I kind of got into it as an athlete, because I was doing triathlons at the time. So that was my big thing, is I was a triathlete, and I was really focused on, you know, biking, kayaking, running, and lifting. So I was more of an aggressive athlete, not so much a yogi. And so when I got into yoga from Michael offering me to come to classes, I actually kind of found yoga boring. I was like, man, people just sit around, they sit on mats, and they want you to like talk about your feelings, and people keep telling me to breathe. Like, what does that mean? I've been breathing for like 23 years. I know what breathing is. Like, I don't need you to tell me how to breathe. So I would go only on Mondays, and I would only go to like power, super sweaty vinyasa classes. And if they started talking about anything that was philosophical, like, I checked out. And over a couple of years, Michael ended up offering me to do my teacher training for free if I did video for them. And in my mind, I was like, all right, I'm probably never going to be a teacher, but maybe. And it could be this tool that I use to travel the world. I could teach yoga while I travel the world. And I checked into this 200-hour training, and I was probably the most emotional one out of everyone. I totally fully expected to go in being like, I'm going to be with all these hippies that are crying and talking about their emotions. And I totally became the hippie that was crying and talking about her emotions, and fully embraced yoga, fell in love with it. Michael had me teaching yoga classes before I even graduated. And from that moment on, again, when I commit to something, I just hit the ground running, started teaching full time. And then yoga definitely became like half of photo and video. And the two have just like balanced themselves out ever since. And I can't imagine my life without teaching yoga. Like, it's pretty much consumed me. Whereas photo and video have kind of taken a backseat, and my editing has kind of gone downhill while my teaching has gone up.
And yeah, man, I can't even imagine you without the yoga, because I mean, I don't even know if I probably would have contacted you without that. Yeah, like,
Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
just might
It's
have been
weird.
like the cool person on Facebook, and then I would have been like, all
Yeah.
right, and just kept on moving on. But now you headstand everywhere, so that's what I'm saying.
Handstand.
I'm
Handstand.
sorry, I can't do it yet, man. I mean, like, one day. I know you said it's easy. I probably there's a guy around here. I mean, had you been, I'm sure you would know him if he was here. He owns a, man, like a juice store.
Ah,
And but he did the American Ninja Warrior stuff. But I actually took
oh,
a
nice.
headstand, right? Headstand, is that what it is? Or
Handstand.
handstand. Okay, handstand class. They kind of bonused it after a yoga class I was taking.
Yeah,
So then he taught it, and he gave like the step by step stuff, and I was like one step off from doing it, you know. So I was like, all right, if it's there if I really want it, but I mean like,
yeah,
so one day I'll take a picture, I'll tag you in and be like, I'm finally where you're at,
yeah.
and then the next thing will be I have to join you skydiving or something.
Yes, yes, definitely.
um, Let me see.
I was going to say
Is
one thing though with the
Do it.
handstand. In all honesty, it's like every single thing that you do, right? Like, I mean, people look at yogis now, and this is something that I really want people to um, get rid of this misconception about yoga because I feel like so many people, and I'm guilty of it because I'm constantly putting up handstand photos, but that's not the purpose of yoga. You know, that's not the purpose. The purpose, and there's not like the perfect yoga body. And if you do yoga, it doesn't mean you're going to be like this model and you're going to be on the front of a magazine and you could do all these crazy flexy twisty things with your body. The purpose of it is to really become happy with yourself and to create a healthy relationship with the physical body and the mental body. And I feel like something happened for me when I did yoga over maybe 3 years. My first 3 years of doing yoga, first it was just purely physical. I came in, I wanted to stretch, I wanted to sweat, it was a workout. But after time, when you spend that much time like looking at your toes and like flexing your sides and breathing and just spending that much time with your physical body, you begin to really love your body, even the imperfections. You know, I've got these like big like Flintstone feet and I've got these knobbly knees. And, you know, there's these things that you say that you hate, you know, as you grow up, as you see what the ideal of beauty is. And it's so sad because one day my girlfriend, this really inspired me. She wrote a love letter to herself, and it was
Mm.
a love letter about how amazing her body was, and she was never going to say she hated it again because she was a marathon runner and she wanted to say thank you for the ability to have the endurance to do this. And it was just this very vulnerable letter that she wrote to herself. So I wrote a love letter to my feet because my whole life I hated my feet. I hated them so much. And I would say that all the time. I hate my feet. I would hide them because there were these big Flintstone feet. And then I realized how stupid that statement is, how ridiculous it is to say that you hate something that keeps me walking around the earth and like walking up mountains and clipping into a snowboard and riding down a mountain and surfing and all of these other things. And I thought how extraordinary my feet actually were. Like they were the most amazing things that I could have probably ever been given in my whole life. They were, even if they weren't like going to be on the front of a magazine in some beautiful shoes, they were probably like the most beautiful thing about me. And from that moment on, I realized that yoga had given me the ability to change and flip my perspective into
Mm.
kind of falling in love with those parts of your body. And so for a lot of people, it's easy now to get on Instagram and see all these hot girls in bikinis and lingerie doing yoga, which really frustrates me because that's not what it's about. And I think that intimidates people. And they're like, I can't go to a yoga studio. I suck at yoga. And I'm like, you don't suck at yoga. The whole point is to go in to gain flexibility and insight, you know? There's no way to be bad at yoga. Like if you have a body and you move and you do what you can, then you're great at yoga. That's the thing. And so handstands come with a ton of practice. And believe me, I just flip flopped into Will thousands of times over many years until finally one day my legs went straight up and I was like, oh, does anybody see this? I'm doing a handstand. So it's just, I mean, if you're a photographer or a lawyer or an accountant or, you know, a floral arranger, you don't get to the point of feeling like you're really good at something until you practice a lot of hours. So, yeah.
So yoga. What you just described right there was the mental reframing again. Um, the power of perspective change because nothing actually changed but your mindset on your feet. You didn't get
Exactly.
new feet or nothing, you know.
No, no new feet.
And
They're
and then
still Flintstone feet. Doo, 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 doo,
and
doo.
then a lot of that is still probably like the user experience. Like I think I mentioned that off the recording, but yeah, like for all I know, you probably have just fine feet, but the user experience is like, you know, I mean, it looked like feet to me. I don't know. Maybe Discord adds magic to it. I don't know. But I mean, like, but it looked like feet to me. But I mean, I
Yeah.
get it. Like we all have our things. Like, um, I don't know if I have my things because I don't know. I think I've probably done not the best job about caring about my appearance. So like, I probably don't have um, I don't know. I have calluses on my feet that I probably should get rid of, but I just don't. But I don't care at the same time. Yeah, as long as it doesn't hurt me. If that's a health thing, then I'll
Yeah,
totally look into that.
exactly.
But I don't care.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, yoga for me, um, I think main reason I got into it is because I lost my arms. Um, I always say that, and I think it sounds way more dramatic than it was. But I had an office. My last real job was an office job, and I think just like you said, I'm kind of glad they let me go too. Um, I'm still looking for what that next thing is for me, and I'm sure it's probably like right in front of my face and I can't see it. But I used to work 24 hours. I mean, I was working there 10-hour days, my hands in this position, computer. But then
Yeah.
all my activities are computer too. The music, this keyboard right here, like anything I did, and I would always mix it on a computer. So I was on a computer like pretty much all my waking hours, and that just took a toll. And it was like like there was points where I was typing with pens like this, because
Ah,
the pain just got like really bad. Like I couldn't use pretty much this stuff was hurting. Just doing like
oh
motions
man.
like this. So I was like, I don't remember how old I was, but let's just guess 25. And man, I literally thought like, man, is that it? Like I just don't get to do music no more. Like that just sucks. Like what else? Because at that point, music was kind of my main activity. Um,
Yeah.
but I got very fortunate. I met this girl and she taught me she gave me this book about trigger point therapy. She was a guitar player who also had similar problems, and it taught me trigger point therapy, which is like foam rolling, but way more intricate with like pretty much
Yeah.
points all over your entire whole body. And then yoga, man, because stuff was tight because of the tension.
Mm-hmm.
And like I'm still like not perfect, but like I can do stuff. I'm doing this because this is all me messing with computers, and for the most part, I'm paying free, so I'm like super grateful. So I'm on team yoga for life, never giving up. I'm not a master, and I don't know if I ever will be, but I mean, like it definitely helped me continue living. So I'm super
Yeah, that's
grateful to
awesome.
the way. Um, no idea what I was gonna ask now, but
I love stories like that. Like it's yoga is this very surprising platform that I never knew it could be. I feel like your story
yeah,
is so unique to you, and everyone that I have had as a student or that I've had as a teacher has similar stories of how yoga has transformed their lives. And it's really wild because I don't consider myself a religious person, but there's something very spiritual and universal about the practice of yoga. And in my whole life, I was always a connector. I was always really good at talking to people. And I was always really good at like meeting the right people. I always found really interesting people coming into my life. And then I'd be like, oh, Bob needs to meet Sue because Bob, owns buildings and Sue needs, 2 yoga studios. And he just told me that he needed this and that. And so I was constantly connecting people
you're that
that
middle
needed to
man,
find each other. But
middle
I was just
person.
this like link. And it was wild because whenever yoga came into my life, all of a sudden, I'm not going to say like I'm a good teacher or anything, but I was able to do something that students were really gelling with, that students really were feeling transformed in their own minds and their own bodies when they're teaching. And I think every yoga teacher has that power just because you're not really anything. You're a voice. You stand in the room and you give directions for somebody to do something in their own body. And what they do or what they don't do is their own choice. But you give them the power to just empower themselves. And so it's really cool because so many people give the teacher so much credit. But in reality, I'm just this link again. Like I've been my whole life and I've connected people. Again, as a yoga teacher, I'm just linking people with their own body. I'm not doing anything for them. I'm not moving them. they're doing it themselves and they're finding power through it. And then from that, all of a sudden, you know, my adventurous traveling side of my life merged in with my fitness and health and consciousness side. And I found out that I had this platform where I could bring people from all around the world that were looking to, you know, gain higher consciousness physically or mentally into one room. And all of a sudden, these like transformative things were happening that I didn't really have power over. I just was simply the tool to get them all into the same room. And I think for my first yoga retreat that I hosted last year in Bali, it was 24 individuals from around the world. And I can't imagine it being more perfect than it was. It was so beautiful to see these people sit in a circle and just talk and communicate with one another. And just, there was these ebb and flows of people and their stories and who they connected with in the circle. And they had this week to take time to really get to know one another and connect. And by the end of the week, all of these connections that I didn't even try to make were all made separately from me. And that was like the coolest thing. And I think now, being a yoga teacher that runs like international trainings and retreats, that is the best part of it. Is like you get people together and you're like, all right, what's going to come from this? Like, what are these people going to have in common that embraces them and that they're able to share with one another over this month or this week? And you just sit there and you watch it unfold. So you bring it together and then you just let it fluidly develop into whatever is going to happen.
Mm. All right. First off, like, man, I really want to, I don't even have my passport, so I'm like a ways behind. But like, I definitely, that's going to be one of my goals, is to do one of your retreats at some point. I think right now I'm in this figure out what the hell I'm gonna do with my life mode. Like, I might even be moving as soon as a month. You know, like probably to the West Coast, hang out with the Abays, you know, again or something. You know, like
yes, I love them.
Those guys. Man, I wrote down what I wanted to say, but yo, those guys, I'll tell you a short story about them, man. All right. Casey's the one who plays guitar, right? If I recall,
Yeah.
right? And Earl,
Yeah.
okay, so me and him talk forever the whole time while Earl's the other one, right? If I recall. Is that his name? Earl, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Earl, just like silent, just chilling. Me and Casey talk for like many minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever, maybe an hour about music. And then Earl's like, yo, man, like, we should, because now we're just trading stories about stuff we made. It's like, we should just go into the listening room and hear it. So we go, and it's this door around the back. And he opens up this door, and it's the quote-unquote listening room was the full-on recording studio.
Yeah. That recording studio is magical.
Oh, it's amazing. But
it's
I was
magical.
like, dude, what the hell are you talking about? Listening room? This ain't no listening room. like this is like they had legit gear. Like this is my world. Like, I don't know how much you know. Like, I'm into this shit, but I'm like, some of the stuff they had is like, that's the realest of the, like, they had the like, I think it's the, oh man, I'm over here claiming I'm real. I don't even remember the name, but they had like these like classic monitors that are like number 1A. I think it's the NS7s or it's some old Yamaha stuff. I blocked it out of my head because I'm not getting it. But anyway, like they had like monitors that like you would have only if this shit is your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mixing console, like, yeah, you've seen it. So it's amazing. But I mean, but again, me and Casey start playing stuff, hearing this, and then again, Casey tells me like, oh yeah, he made it. And I'm like, you made this? And again, he's just so reserved, like, you know,
he's
like,
so
I try. Yeah, he's just
so
like the things they had in there and like the way he put that all together, I was like, man, this guy's crazy, man. Like, they were real cool people.
Did you see the video I did on them? Did I send that to you?
No, you haven't. You should totally do that.
I need to send it to you because same thing. Earl just sits there and I'm like, I'm interviewing him. And he's sitting with his hands crossed. He's like, oh fuck, I hate cameras.
Oh, they're gonna hate me then when I'm back there because you know I'm gonna put them on the podcast.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Like, what else I wrote here? Because I'm gonna take notes because I be forgetting stuff. Don't remember what that meant. But all right, you said you weren't a good teacher, and I of course, again, your experience, or not that you don't want to boast. You were trying to be humble, is what I'm trying to say. Yo, you're a badass teacher. I've taken you, I believe, 2 or 3 times. Definitely 2. I don't know if I did 3. But and yeah, you mentioned the voice that all you are is a voice. Um, and but yo, your voice is like real good, man. Like in the class, like I feel like the two flows you've come up with while I was there were like really well, and you just have like a proper voice for it too, man. Like um, I
Hey.
enjoyed it a lot, you know. Like, like I'm super biased too, so maybe it is that. But I'm biased. It was great. It was
It's
great.
kind of funny when people say it. Like, I get that compliment a lot.
Yeah.
When people say, you know, you have a really great voice when you teach, it really calms me down and it soothes me. And it's really funny because my whole life growing up, my biggest dream was to be a singer. Like, I always wanted to
Mm.
sing. And
Can
I
you
still
sing?
date, I try. I write music. I write music and I try to sing, but I'm not like, I'm nothing. Like, I'm nothing in the singing, but I love to sing. And what's funny about it is I still have daydreams. Like, I'll randomly, when I'm walking around town and I have my music in my headphones, I'm like picturing myself on a stage with all these people watching me singing the song. And I'm like, I close my eyes, I'm walking and I'm just like imagining that this is me on the stage and just everyone is like listening to my voice. And I thought, man, I really wish that I had a voice that like made people emotional and like really brought these things out of them. And then I thought about it because somebody wrote me the other day from South Africa, a friend of mine that was like, I took your classes, I took all of them online. And she was like, your voice is like so beautiful and makes me feel so good when I'm doing the flow. And I thought about it. And I was like, shit, I didn't even realize it. Like, I'm not meant to be a singer, but my voice does bring out emotions in people and it
Yeah,
does,
man.
you know, bring this happiness to them. And I'm like, wow, I didn't even know that I had fulfilled one of my lifelong dreams. It's already happening. So it's
Yes.
kind of random how that happens. Like, maybe, you know, if you believe in God or you believe in the universe, like maybe the universe is like, hey, Echo, you can't sing very well and nobody wants to hear that shit. But when you teach yoga, people really like your voice.
Sometimes you can still do the thing, but in a
In
different
a
way.
different
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying this podcast is gonna blow up. Like, who knows? Maybe it's just another stepping stone to whatever it is I do. But let me tell
Mm-hmm.
you something. I guarantee you more people hear this show than hear my music ever. Like, which I just found like hilarious. But like, cause even like actual musicians like hear this show, and I'm like, dude, like we're like friends. You never listen to my music, but like, I was just surprised by that. But I'll
Yeah.
take it. I'll take it. You know, I'm happy. But I'm just saying, like, way more people hear this show. Not that I'm getting again. That this fan base is still small, but I'm just like, I was super
Yeah.
impressed by that. Um, this is a joke question, but um, this is more a stereotype thing. How come I feel like almost every traveler is a yogi in some form or another? Like,
You know, I mean, there is it's kind of funny as well because a lot of people say every female skydiver is a yogi. And you
that
wouldn't
is
know about
very
that.
specific. I don't
Yeah,
know.
you,
Maybe.
you wouldn't know that because you're not in the community. But I
Yeah,
honestly
yeah.
like I've been coming up with like I feel like I'm like this wannabe psychologist. I'm
Mm,
always like I'm trying to work out how people's brains work and how they actually make the decisions that they do. But there's a huge correlation to it. I feel like when you travel, and especially when you travel alone, like I did for 12 years. Now I'm not traveling alone, but when I was traveling alone for 10 plus years, there's like this sense of loneliness that you get, you know, like you're traveling the world, you don't know anybody. A lot of times you don't know the language, you're not familiar with the food, and you need something to feel solidified in yourself so that you really can be okay with being alone. And I think that for many years, I just got really good at being by myself. I spent a lot of time alone and I was comfortable with that. But with this outburst of yoga in the world, it's it's like this whole community now. When you travel, you're never alone. You go to a new studio and you have best friends everywhere, and somebody's like, "Oh, I know a yoga teacher in Singapore that you have to check out," or "I know a yoga teacher in South Korea that you have to check out." And there's this whole solidifying um, family, like this force behind yoga. And I feel like as travelers, you look for that. Like you're looking for a universal family. Like when you're traveling, you don't have routine like everyone else. You're not going to go out, you know, have coffee with your friend on Mondays because you do that every Monday. And you're not going to go out to Tuesday nights baseball with your friends because that's what you do every Tuesday. you have to find something that really makes you feel part of the family, and yoga is that tool. And so it's really interesting because the two don't seem like they're correlated at all, but they really are. And who doesn't? I mean, yoga in essence is just making your body feel good, and who doesn't want to feel good in their body? So of course, anybody that you introduce it to, if you take them through a class and they feel that feeling of, just satisfaction and pleasure in their own body to like just stretch and kind of like break the fascia apart and let their body breathe, it's addictive. It becomes almost like a drug where you're just like, oh, I have to do this every day. So yeah, I mean, it just becomes universal, and it's pretty simple when you think about why so many people are doing it. It's not just travelers, it's everyone, but travelers even more so because they're looking for their universal family.
I went to a few yoga meetups here, like for the first time, maybe like starting in August.
Mm-hmm.
And a part of me was like, man, like even after the first one, it's like, and it's like I know yoga is everywhere, but it's like for whatever reason, it didn't occur to me to ever look here. But I've overall, I probably haven't had like the best outlook on San Antonio, and a lot of that had to do because it was tied with my music. So I guess I kind of had already painted the picture like San Antonio is just not a good place, But my mind has changed this year mainly because I removed like myself from the music community, and that was where a lot of the negativity was coming for me anyway. But I got with just being around some of those people, I was like, damn, dude, I wish I was doing this like immediately, like whenever I got into yoga, because I'm like pretty sure like my life would be probably different because I would know like a whole different group of people that I didn't know or that I would never encounter otherwise. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So same thing when I move. I'm like, man, I'm gonna somehow look it up online. Like I'm sure there'll be like yoga meetups somewhere. And,
Everywhere.
Yeah. And then I'll link up with those people.
It's awesome.
What are you right now? What are you doing? Are you just because I see you in like a different place every few days, but you're in Europe, so you can kind of actually do that. But I mean, like,
yeah.
You just traveling for fun right now? Is there any like mission behind it or anything? Or
I'm in London. I think I'm going to be going on a road trip to Scotland in a couple of days. Then I'm flying over to Dublin to see one of my yoga students from a training that I just taught on in Greece. I'm going to go meet up with a paraglider there as well. I got my paragliding license with this Irish guy when I was living in New Zealand. So from traveling, I have, contacts kind of everywhere. So I'm trying to make my way around Europe to see them. But eventually, next month, I'll end up in Greece again, in Athens, teaching some yoga workshops there before I head to Thailand, where I'm teaching a yoga retreat, and then to Bali, where I'm working on a 300 yoga retreat. So at this moment is kind of me enjoying my time in Europe while I'm here before I start to teach again, and heading to Southeast Asia. So yeah, I'm just having fun and doing yoga as I go and just meeting up with all my friends that kind of live in the areas that I'm visiting.
That's what's up, man.
Yeah.
You mentioned you like observing and trying to figure out like how other people's minds or brains work. Do you have enough data on me to tell me how mine may work or no?
I actually kind of find you quite fascinating because I've only met you a couple of times, but what I really like about you is the fact that you allow yourself to kind of be vulnerable and put yourself out there because you didn't know me. You reached out to me online and you were like, I'm going to drive in from San Antonio and do a yoga class with you. And I was like, this guy's awesome. Like, he's dedicated. He's driving an hour to come do a yoga class. Like, I want to meet him. Like, he seems like he's searching for something. And I think anybody that's actually seeking is somebody worth knowing because so many people are very settled in their life that they no longer seek, that they're just kind of like, this is life. This is what I do. I make this amount of money. I do this on the weekends. I pay these bills and that's life. But I felt like with you, you always have questions and you're like curious about what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. And I think that that's like the best, that's the best traits that you could hope to have in your community, your creative community, as well as your friend community. And I love that you're doing a podcast now because I feel like you also have a very awesome voice. And I think that I'm just excited to see how you progress because you're doing something that I want to do. And so I want to learn from you on how to kind of step forward and do something like that as well. And I don't know, like you're like this mysterious artistic guy in his room working on his computer, but I feel like you have like all these like grand ideas in your mind to like change the world for the
Oh, you
better.
have no idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, at that point, I was in the like trying to figure out like I guess, what's my purpose? And kind of like looking for the answer. Um and I think now I've learned like, it has to come from within, and which is why I've gotten like gotten into meditations.
Yeah.
I do like two a day like right now, like I mentioned before. Um One is a self-talk one, but then the second one is actual breathing one. And then I have two others that I'll use, two others that are focused on breathing that I'll do, and maybe like they're easier to do with it, like if you're in the world, because they're just actual breathing. So it's not
Yeah.
like, all right, everybody chill out, like I can just do it no matter what activity I'm doing. But they've kind of like, for whatever, like I've noticed something changed in me. Like I've definitely become calmer. Um, I still don't know the answer, but at the same time, I don't know if there is ever an answer. You just kind of like move forward, like
Yeah. I don't think there's an
yeah,
answer.
yeah. So I think I learned that there is no answer.
Yeah.
Um, it's funny with I was gonna say some more stuff, man, but look, I'm gonna blame it up on that. It's super early late here, So who
Yeah.
knows what else I was gonna say. But I have these other questions I do. I have these life questions I do. Uh, so are you ready for that?
I'm ready.
All right. So the first one is the question I asked you already, and I used to ask everybody this because I was kind of looking for it for myself. But what is your goal in life?
Ah, fuck. My goal.
That's the funniest part of asking people all these questions, because I feel like I'll ask them stuff and they respond like that. It's not always the same ones, but inevitably one of them is gonna do that.
Yeah. I mean, I get asked that a lot too, and I hate when people ask me my 5-year plan. My goal in life is much
Oh, you're
easier
gonna
to say.
love one of my next
You
questions.
better not fucking ask me that.
It's
I
a
hate
different
that
number. It's
question.
not 5. It's 3. It's
Okay. That plan. So my
and it's
goal
not a
in life,
plan. It's not a plan, but we'll get to that when we get to that one. Yeah, do
my
this one.
goal in life is to
Yeah.
never have a inflexible plan. Like
Mm.
my goal in life is to be able to be stable enough mentally, financially, physically, that I can kind of just ebb and flow with what the world has to offer. I feel like when you have a very settled life, you can't take opportunities. So I have this grand advantage that when people are like, hey, can you come work in Greece for 2 months? Or hey, can you come work in Japan for 3 months? Or hey, can you do this? I can do it. So my goal in life is to keep creating possible ways for me to be financially stable enough to where I have the ability to do that. So having an online yoga channel, or doing more video editing, or leading more, yoga retreats, or I eventually would like to do kind of like female empowerment summits, like big events for just females to come up together from around the world, and then also just intellectual summits with men and women. These are events like way future that I would like to host, so I can bring more people together. So really, my goal in life is to remain flexible in all ways, so that I have the advantage to do these things.
That's one of the things I'm struggling with right now. Like, because a part of me is like, just move out to LA raw and like figure it out. And the other part of me is like, kind of like, let me do it the safe way and go back to job life. But then I'm like, I don't want to give up what you just said, like the
Yeah.
flexibility to do these things, because they're it's riskier, but they're always more interesting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
there's I don't know, there's fun and excitement in the unpredictable, at least for me, and I'm sure for you.
Yeah.
Um, this is what I wanted to mention before, by the way. You mentioned my voice after telling me your voice story. Um, the thing I get when people hear the podcast, especially because I do a variety, like this is like the one where I interview people, the one that
Mhm.
you're on right now. But I grew up in New York, Bronx, New York. So when the New Yorkers come on, those are usually more like just friends hanging out and talking about whatever, you know?
Mhm.
And I've gotten a lot of positive feedback because one, we're from New York, so I guess we talk with that accent, you know, even though a lot of
Yeah.
mine is probably not as strong as it used to be. But we talk, and then just the way we treat each other is probably not how, especially a lot of the Texas people are used to friends being treated. But they're
Yeah.
like, but you're still cool with each other. It's so weird, you know, because I guess
Yeah.
we're like our aggressive is like our love, you know,
Yeah.
versus like that would be like I'm never calling this person again over here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I
That's
don't know.
awesome.
Um, all right, the next one is, oh yeah, who do you have compassion for?
Who do I have compassion for? Whew.
Yeah.
I have I have compassion for people that they just don't see any power in themselves, like no
Mm,
power. And I see people like this that kind of tend to walk with their shoulders in, and they have very quiet voices, and they're very shy, and they don't have anything to say, or they don't have anything to offer because they just don't think that what they say matters, and they don't think that what they do affects anyone. And I used to get really frustrated with these people. I'm like, come on, like use your voice, like be a person, like, expand, communicate. Like I can't connect with you if you don't act human. And so I have a lot of compassion for those people because I was that person growing up. You know, I was like very defeatist and I was a victim, and I felt a lot of pity and sorrow for myself. And so when I see people like that, and you just see people, especially walking in these big cities like in London, people look so defeated. They look so down on themselves. And that makes me so sad because I can't imagine going through life not thinking that what I do and what I say matters. Not that it matters to a whole ton of people, but I think that if you affect one person in a positive way, then there you go. Your life matters. Like your words matter. But if you just sit and hide yourself from people and you don't share anything and you don't open up, that's so sad. Like that's just such a sad way to waste a human life because life is so short. You know, the human lifespan is like a blip on the radar. Like you don't have any time here. Like I'm 33, and I mean, if you think about it, say I died when I was like 70, I'm like nearly halfway through my life. Like that's scary. Like there's not a ton of time in your life. So you have to really embrace it. And so many people don't realize that until they're like 60 years old and they're like, I got to quit my job. I've got to actually, spend time with my kids. I need to use the money I've been saving. And yeah, I feel bad for people that don't use their voice and also for people that waste their time. People that waste their time in jobs that they don't really care, waste their time in relationships with people that aren't good for them, or relationships with people that don't really build them up or make them a better version of themselves. And then, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years goes by and they realize they've wasted all that time. That's what I feel sorry for because time is precious.
I'm still guilty of the second one. Like I'm starting to realize it a lot more, and I've moved people to different positions in my life because I've noticed like, man, you're just not having a good impact on me. Like even if they're not a bad person, like you're just not, conducive to the betterment of what I'm trying to do for me. Um,
Yeah.
and then yeah, I was that job person at one time too. Um, but the first part, because like I know people who are like this, literally hunched up and quiet, and I had an introverted coming up too. Like it's funny because I would still describe um myself as an introvert, but then like someone but who knows me and he hears the podcast too, he said no, not at all. You're not an introvert at all. So like maybe it's just I think that way because I was once that way. Maybe I'm no longer that. But like
Yeah.
those people who are hunched up or are closed in, um, I'm kind of the mind that like that you can, you can try to help them or you can show them stuff, but at the end of the day, like you have to make the decision yourself, right? Like there's really like is there anything like from the outside that we can do like outside of showing them things or I
I
mean,
mean, I think that people, if you're a real friend to somebody and you care about somebody, you have to be honest with them and tell them the truth. I mean, we're a society that loves to baby one another and say, "Oh, it's not you, it's him," or that's it's okay. It's okay to do that, or it's okay to do this. And the truth is you're just enabling people to feel sorry for themselves and to be a victim. And it hurts sometimes. Like people say the whole quote of like brutal honesty or the truth hurts. Um, but some of my like the biggest moments in my life where I've learned the most is whenever somebody's given me a harsh reality check and they're like, Echo, like you're being a victim right now. Like you're feeling sorry for yourself, or you're being lazy about what it is that you want to do and you're not taking any initiative. And like, the partners making me, or allowing me to be let go of the law firm. In reality, like they did me a huge favor by doing that. They could have just been like, oh, we'll keep giving her a chance, keep giving her a chance. But I wasn't happy there. So really the only thing that you can do is be a mirror for people and reflect what it is that they need to see. Because
mm,
if you just keep allowing them to be that version and then going and talking about them behind their back, like I see so many people do, where they'll be like, oh, like, Abraham's wasting his time. He's not doing this or that. Like, I can't believe like, I feel like I hear that a lot in friend groups where they tell each other the truth. They tell their friends the truth behind somebody's back, but they won't tell that person. And so they're just doing a dishonor to their whole group by doing that. Like if you want strong friends and you want a strong community, you've got to allow the truth to kind of flow.
mm. All right. The next one is, and yeah, the truth shall set you free. Like you mentioned the other one about the truth hurts, but the other phrase, the truth shall set you free, is kind of true, by the
Yeah.
way. But
Yeah.
three things you're thankful for.
Three what?
Three things you're thankful for. Anything.
Three things I'm thankful for. Number one, my health.
Mm,
Number two, even though it took me a very, very, very long time to come to this conclusion, I'm so extremely thankful for my mother. And that's like a whole other story. We won't go into that today, but like I had a lot of hatred for my relationship with my mother, and I didn't speak to her the whole second part of my life, and then she died. And my honor, I got a tattoo of her on my shoulder, and
mm,
she is the woman that is blowing out the bubbles that are creating the universe.
mm,
Because for me, I realized that in all honesty, no matter what happened, and if my mother wanted me or not, she had me. And had she not, I would have never taken my first breath and I would have never experienced human life. So I am extremely grateful to her. And it's something that I never told her. But she is this huge pivotal moment in my life. Third, I'm thankful for people that, that, that feel connected enough to me to make me feel like I have some purpose. Like I am thankful for people that come to me and that are vulnerable enough to tell me their stories and to use me kind of as an ear, because that makes me feel like I have some self-worth. Not that I don't see it before, but that to me gives me power to move forward, because that is what I want to do. I want to help inspire people to live an authentic life. And so when people are vulnerable enough to tell me their stories and come to me, that gives me purpose to push forward what I want to do.
mm. Um, I feel like I read something about your mom and my creative drug a long time ago. Yeah, I feel like I vaguely remember it though. No, I was just saying I hate doing these with a cutoff because I never finish the questions, man.
It's
Anytime
like
there's a
Joe
cutoff.
Rogan. Joe Rogan's podcast, he could talk for like 6 hours.
Oh yeah, you don't know. Like I can do that too. Like, if I have the right person, like I can totally do. I did that with my saxophone player. And it's funny because we're not even like close or nothing, but I guess we align on so many things that it's just real easy to A/B. Um, but here I'll
Yeah.
ask one more and then we'll end it. But that'll mean I'll have to hold you to come back again though.
Yeah,
But
no worries.
all right, one person, and you might have alluded to this in a prior answer, but one person that you want to forgive, and if so, why? and vice versa. One person that you want to forgive you, and again, if so, why? If you can say why for both.
Oh man. So yeah, like you said, I could have alluded to it in the last
Yeah, yeah,
question. I think that, I mean, to expand on that, I think that our relationships with our parents are like so complex, you know,
yeah.
like it's interesting because they are your creator, like they are your creator. And to give them that much power, they're just humans, right? But they give you this whole possibility of being able to even have an experience. So I wish that when you say, who would I like to forgive me and who would I like to forgive? For me, I really wish that I could have forgiven my mother during her lifetime when she was living. Because I don't know how my hatred towards her affected her. Um, she did a lot of things to me that I just feel are unspeakable and that no parent should do to their child or to any human for that matter. But I realized that she was a very tortured soul. And I think that when anybody does anything out of pain or fear, it's not in reality anything to do with you, even if it's directed towards you. It's to do with what's going on in them. And my mother, you know, tormented and tortured me because she herself was tormented and and tortured by something in her mind and something that was happening with her. And as a child, I couldn't realize that. You know, as a child, you look at your parents as these beacons of like possibility and of all knowing. Like they are your God. Like there's nothing they could do that could be wrong. And so I looked to her for a lot of support that I didn't get, and I hated her for not giving it to me. And I think in reality for her, she was just this broken soul that was trying to make her way through life, and then all of a sudden she was given this little baby to kind of guide, and she had no guidance to give me because she couldn't figure her own life out. She was trying so hard to sort through, you know, her own addictions and her own traumas that she had nothing left to offer me. So I wish that, you know, I wish that as a child I had more knowledge to understand that she was also just a flawed human. She wasn't this. She wasn't something to be put up on a pedestal. And I think too many people do that to their parents. You know, your parents aren't perfect. They don't know all the answers. They're just humans that are trying to do their best. So I think for a lot of people, I try to preach that. I try to say, you know, people complain about their parents all the time, and I'm like, you know what? At least you have them. They're there. Like, you know, they're not going to be there forever. And try to forgive what you can. And I would hope, you know, wherever my mother is, if there is another place that she could be, that she could forgive me for having intolerance towards her, and that she could forgive me for, you know, taking out my own pain on her. And anyone that I've hurt in life, you know, I'm not perfect. I think that a lot of who I've become has definitely evolved, but there's a part of me from back as a child and being a victim that I took a lot from people, not in a very negative, awful way, but in a way that I needed a lot as a victim, and I needed people to take care of me and maybe to even feel sorry for me. I don't know if I needed that. Maybe back then I did, but for all of those people that kind of held me up along the way and helped me kind of stand on my own 2 feet, I apologize if I took too much of their energy and their initiative away from them.
Mm. All right. What's funny is you pick like the perfect spot to stop at, because the next question would have been, where do you see yourself in 3 years? So it's perfect stop. Um, yeah, so we'll get the 2 quickies out, and then we'll end it. Where plugs, like where can the people find you or whatever?
So you can find me on Instagram at echo_around the world. You can also find me on YouTube. The Giesel Belly is the backslash on that. So GIESELLEBELLY.
Is that really what it is? I've just clicked it. I've never read that.
It's under the Giesel Belly. But I mean,
That's
if you just
funny.
look up my name, if you
Yeah.
look up my name, Echo Giesel Widmer, I think there's 2 profiles on there. I need to get rid of one of them. But the one that's obvious is the one that has all the videos on it.
Yeah.
I also have a Vimeo, vimeo.com/mycreativedrug. And then my website is mycreativedrug.com. So I've got all kinds of stuff.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And last words.
Last words. Cheers for thinking that I'm interesting enough to come onto your podcast for an hour.
You are interesting enough to come on for slightly more than an hour, but you
Yeah.
have other commitments. But
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, man, nah, like I said, like when you posted, like, I don't remember what you posted, but it was something positive, like about me doing the podcast, and I was like, dude, like you have no idea, like I used to and still do like look up to you, like, man, and I know like no one solved it, but still, you're like one of the people that I'm like, man, like. Like in some way, like I feel like I'm chasing you, like not literally, like, but I mean
Yeah.
literally, like to where you are in life, like to maybe like to like from outside looking into like maybe what it appears to be like the level of fulfillment you might have,
Yeah.
I feel like, man, like I'm still trying to get that, but for my version, whatever that may be.
Well, the man is like that. If that's what you want, it's a lot. Like you're saying, you're trying to sort out
Say that again, because you like you muted out for a second.
I was going to say, for a lot of people that say that they want this kind of lifestyle, it's a lot easier than it seems. And it's really, the hardest part is just letting go of what you have now. I have 5 boxes of things to my name. There is no place that is home. My home is in my body. Once you can be okay with that and you can give up the material possessions, life is pretty friendly and kind to those that allow themselves to be vulnerable and float out into the world. So you'll see all kinds of stuff just open doors for you. Like you'll show up in a city, put up a post, say, do I know anyone here? And the next thing you know, you could be like on a podcast with some musician in Ireland, performing a show in some Irish pub. There's possibilities everywhere.
That has been, I think it's funny because we didn't even talk about that, but that was one of the things we said on the Facebook. That's been one of the things that I've not been wanting to let go of yet, is like I like doing this stuff, but like with the room, with
the comfort.
Yeah, and not even just the comfort, but yeah, it is comfort, but some of this stuff like making music, I'm like, oh man, I'd have to just be like a laptop dude. I never wanted to be that. I like using like guitars and like real instruments and stuff, but I just a lot of the things would be primarily more creative comforts, like
Yeah.
this big mixer ain't gonna travel,
Yeah.
like a lot of the gear I used to record, like not all of that is gonna travel so well, so I'm like, but maybe I just need to stop being a punk. I don't know,
It'll come when it's supposed to.
Yeah, man, for sure. But I guess that's it, man. You're vegan, right?
Oh man, no.
No, you're not? Oh, okay, good. Then I can close the show normal.
Yeah, I was vegan. I call myself I was. I'm a flexitarian, so I'm mostly vegetarian, but at times I will eat fish. So I call myself a flexitarian.
All right, there we go. I just learned. That's your word, right? It's not real, right?
No, it's not real.
Okay, I was about to Google that like after we
talked.
But yeah, man, all right, bake that chicken, smoke that turkey, we done. Boosh.
Love you, man.
All right, man, thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
You were talking about linking people. Yo, if anyone ever needs audio work anywhere,
yeah,
you can send them my way. And like even like stuff like this, like I clean up this audio. Like some stuff I can't clean up. Like there was internet slowness. I don't know if you heard it from me, but I heard it from you towards the last question, where you sound like like bits.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't clean that up. But like even stuff like making. Like, I bet you your YouTube videos, I bet you I could make that sound slightly better. You can only do so much.
I was about to say, maybe I can get you to help me with my YouTube
Yeah, no, because a part of me was like, I bet you I could run her through this analyzer and stuff. Because, but yeah, like, I don't even have lavalier mics, those clip-ons, but like, I'm telling you, like, I see a lot of the yoga people and they have that. I feel that'll make a world of difference because no matter what position you're in, your voice will be close to the mic, Yeah. And you just put it in a way where your hair won't hit it. And then, yeah, it should be good.
Sweet.
Get into Twitch, man. I'm telling you, that'll change your life. I'm telling you, like, because
All right.
you have a window into the world that I feel like a lot of people who still live in the homes like me, those are literally the only people I like to watch are travelers. I don't really watch anyone else because I can be in my room. I don't need to see you in your room like a lot of other people like to do. You know? So I'm
Yeah, yeah,
telling you,
yeah.
like
I'm gonna check it out.
right now, like, because a lot of these platforms, when you're early,
Yeah.
so a lot of those people I showed you, one of them, the couple was early. They came in January, but we're getting to that point where everybody's doing it. So that cutoff's about to happen hard, where like you can try, but it might not work now, no.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah, man, look into that, man. But have
Will
an
do.
awesome day. Thank you again. You're awesome.
Yeah. You're awesome.
All right, thanks.
Ciao.
All right.
Okay. Boom. Big Shack. Ota Afni. Scoop no. Rap no. Usna. Ota the girl them as well. Boom. 2 plus 2 is 4. Minus 1, that's 3. Quick maths. Everyday man's on the block. Smoke trees. See your girl in the park. That girl was a octopus. When the thing went quack, 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 you man were ducking. Old tight Afni, he's got a pumpy. Old tight my man, he's got a frisbee. I trap on the road, moving that cornflakes. Rice crispy, old tight my girl Whitney. Perfect. On the road doing 10 toes, lava toes. You man fought, I froze. I see a 10 girls in a pose. If she's not on it, I boast. Look at your nose, nose long like garden hose. You get me? I said man's not hot. I said a man's not hot. The girl told me take off your jacket. I said babes, man's not hot. I said man's not hot. I said a man's not hot. The girl told me take off your jacket. I said babes, man's not hot. Pop up the 4-door with the 440 was 1, 2, 3, and 4. Chilling in the corridor. Your dad is 44 and he still call a man for a draw. Let him know. Wanna see him? I'm gonna spin his jaw. Take man 6 by force. Send man shot by force. Your girl knows I've got the force. No ketchup. Just sauce. Raw sauce. Boom. Yo. The thing goes up. Skiddy pop pop pop. And the poop 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 boom. Skia. Poop 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 boom boom. Boom boom. I said man's not hot. I said a man's not hot. The girl told me take off your jacket. I said babes, man's not hot. I said man's not hot. I said a man's not hot. The girl told me take off your jacket. I said babes, man's not hot. Yo, man can never be hot. Perspiration thing. Links effect. Yo, you don't know. Don't take me for one of these boys and you know what I'm saying? Man's really about it. The thing goes up. Skiddy poop pop pop. And the poop 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 boom. Skia. Poop 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 boom. Boom boom. You don't know.